We live in an environment built almost entirely on the pursuit of validation. With every scroll and every swipe, we are actively looking for external affirmation, hoping to catch a reflection of our own worth before the screens shatter and the cycle starts again. That constant need to be seen is driven by a quiet, collective anxiety. The unspoken question at the root of modern culture is, how can I feel secure? But that question only leads to an endless loop of dissatisfaction. The question we actually need to be asking on a collective level is much simpler. How can I best serve the whole? When we don't ask that question, insecurity takes root. Individual insecurity is the specific birthplace of what we recognize as arrogance. The loud, macho posturing, the need to project absolute certainty, and the impulse to bully all spring from a deep, unacknowledged terror of being inadequate. We try to tightly control our lives and force the world to recognize our status. This attempt to force reality to validate us often masks a deep-seated psychological sickness as self-empowerment. This dynamic becomes even more dangerous when it quietly evolves into spiritual arrogance. Look at the stark isolation captured in this photograph of an ascetic. It visualizes the temptation to retreat from the world entirely, fueled by the belief that we have found the only valid path, and that everyone else is simply lost in the dark. This is known as the spiritual mistake. We fixate on higher frequencies and untouchable purity as a way to escape the messy, fallible, often incorrect reality of actually being human. The true danger of arrogance is that it operates as a total blind spot. You cannot hunt down your own arrogance. Your ego is structurally built to protect itself. It will not allow you to see your own behavior objectively. Because arrogance cannot diagnose itself, it requires an external collision to be revealed. You have to make a mistake, and you have to fall. There are mechanical rules built into life. Think of dharma as the unique flow and pattern of your destiny, the forces setting the board. Karma is simply the law of cause and effect, how you respond to that dharma. Once you act or speak, your action stands for eternity. When we act out of insecurity, desperately trying to control the script of our lives, we trigger a specific karmic sequence. As you can see in this visualization, the illusion of a straight path forward bends instantly into an inescapable loop. Your actions create the exact energy you put out, trapping you in a cycle of consequence. Because of these mechanics, arrogant action carries a mathematical certainty. It ends in humiliation. Like a rigid structure buckling under its own immense weight, life arranges a humbling to break the ego's blindness. A moment of warmth. This collapse of the ego provides the first genuine step toward the vulnerability and humanity that leadership actually requires. We have a cultural habit of idolizing the impeccable saint. We look for leaders who appear beyond reproach, people who float above the fray in a world of bliss, entirely detached from everyday grit. But someone who cannot be touched cannot actually pull you up. Real power belongs to the fallen saint. This is the person who makes the mistake, experiences the agonizing fall, but manages to pick themselves back up without closing their heart. This requires a very specific kind of inner courage. Consider the portrait of Rudyard Kipling here, whose famous poem If captures this perfectly. It is the ability to stand firm in your own truth and inherent virtue, even when people project their doubts and hatred onto you. True leaders have lived these trials. They don't transcend humanity to escape it. They are simply the most deeply, messily human people among us. When surrender deepens into the state known as the city, humility moves into the territory of egolessness. This level of humility involves a total letting go of every definition you hold about yourself. To understand this extreme surrender, look at this fresco. Judas Iscariot is branded as history's ultimate betrayer, but imagine he was completely aware of the script. Imagine his trust was so high he willingly played the worst possible role to serve the whole. That is the core of egolessness. It is the willingness to let the world think the absolute worst of you while remaining completely secure in the truth of your own heart. Eastern traditions call this deep acceptance tapas, or penance. It means trusting the humiliating fall so entirely that the pain gives way to irony. You stop fighting the cosmic joke of human suffering, and you finally hear the punchline. When you hit the ground, you realize you aren't alone. Humility means staying willingly on the ground with your fellow humans, laughing at the shared absurdity of the fall, rather than trying to climb back up to a pedestal. This movement from arrogance to humility is a journey of no return. You cannot simply erase your past missteps. A life lived fully requires risk, which means your past mistakes and regrets are permanently absorbed, transforming into a vital, expansive part of your heart. We often claim to be the architects of our own evolution, yet the broader storyline remains out of our hands. Power emerges from surrendering to the specific script we were given. If you are truly listening to the course of your life, it will humble you over and over again. Freedom comes when you stop resisting that process and learn to bow deeply to both the gentle and the fierce cuts of grace. By embracing our own fallibility and dropping the heavy illusion of control, we finally learn to lead without expectations and live without fear.